All right, welcome back to another episode. Hope everyone's doing good. Lane, how you doing today?
Man, I'm good, man. Coming right off of Christmas, ready to get into a new year, brother.
Yeah, I heard that. We survived the holidays,
Yeah, made it
you
through.
know.
Made it through with a limp, but I made it through.
Hey, so kind of, on that same vein, today's show is going to be talking about New Year's, resolutions and last year's baggage.
Mm, mm.
You know, a lot of people don't really know, reasons why we do some things or reasons why we have certain traditions. And so, this is kind of a good topic for everybody
Yeah.
to join in and give comments. Please stick to the end. We definitely want to kind of finish this up, this year as we've been having a good run with Spittin and Chatting. But do you know some of the history just even behind like why we even do the tradition of resolutions?
No, I never looked into that, but I've always wanted to know why. Where did that come from?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Let me go ahead and pick up my paper that I just dropped. But this is an easy research. Anybody can find this. Everything's at our fingertips these days. It's interesting that the tradition of New Year's resolutions began with the ancient Babylonians around 4,000 years ago. During their festivals, making promises to their gods for the new agricultural year, like returning borrowed items or paying debts. And then the Romans adopted this, dedicating January 1st to their god, the god of beginnings, for making promises. The customs evolved through history, moving from religious vows to more secular self-improvement goals, becoming
Mm.
a widespread cultural practice by the 20th. What's your thoughts on that?
Man, I've always wanted to know that information where it came from, but with like a lot of things, this generation, our generation included, we really jump into stuff without really knowing the history.
Yeah.
New Year's resolutions, I always hear them. People flock to the gym and stuff like that. But, doing things yearly just to start a new year, it kind of just seems kind of disingenuous. People just do it just for the sake of a tradition, but there's really
Yeah.
no action or no plan to really make change in their lives.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. Like, we hear it year after year. I mean, I've done it in the past until about probably 7 years ago. After,
Hmm.
kind of doing that research, I realized that I'm just making these statements and not really genuine about it.
Right, right.
And when you really think about it, it's like we are making statements they're almost like vows. We're
Hmm.
saying, like you said, we're gonna go to the gym or we're gonna change our diet or
Right.
whatever. We can have different things, everybody's different. But those are some of the more common ones, that we hear about. I'm gonna lose this many amount of pounds. But I learned for me it became more, I guess, important to, you know, get to the point of, for one, this should be something more private, for
Right.
me, like,
Yeah.
because I look at it as if I'm gonna make this type of, I guess, declaration, I don't want to embarrass myself because I wasn't able to complete it. You know what I
Right.
mean? I
Right.
didn't finish it. I didn't do what I said I was gonna do. And two, again, back to our words, those things have power, behind them. So, back in the day, a lot of that used to be like vows before people's, religious beliefs and the gods that they served. And, so for me, I kind of take it more seriously now. I don't just go
Hmm.
around saying what I'm going to do. It may not even be at the beginning of January, so to speak. It may be in the middle of the year. Like, I'm just going to change this habit. You know what I mean? I'm going to
Right.
start
Right.
working on, this or that, again, like my health or something. So I stopped making those resolutions and kind of statements because of just the research that I came across. And I just wasn't keeping it,
Right.
like most people.
Yeah, yeah. That's usually how it goes. If you the most common one, like you say, people want to start working out, lose weight, be healthier. So at the beginning of the gym, starting tomorrow's the first,
Mm.
the gym will be packed. It'll be a few hundred people in there throughout the day. The gyms will get that revenue, people signing up, and maybe about 3 weeks later, before the month of January ends, look at the gym at that point. Look at it at the first, and
Yeah.
then go to the first and see that the crowds die down.
Yeah.
The people who are serious, well, they were in there before and they'll be in there after. But like you said, if it's something you really want to do, something you really want to change in your life, like you said, I like keep it private. If it's something you want to share to motivate people and inspire people, that's one thing. But something that's really personal to you, it shouldn't just be at the beginning of the year. It should just be a lifestyle. You don't need to wait to January 1st to make a lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. I think that's the main point of this topic.
Right.
So really keeping that to heart, you ain't got to wait till January 1st to make, declarations or statements or, resolutions that,
Yeah.
are going to better your life or be important to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was going to ask a quick question,
mm,
why do you think that as a society, I guess, in our culture, we feel like we have to do that? Why do we feel like, from a tradition standpoint, like we have to come up with something at the beginning of the year?
it's just something that people do just to, sometimes it's conversation, but it's a tradition. Like parents, grandparents, they do it and they're adamant about it. I just got off the phone
Mhm.
with my mom and she was going over with me these traditions of New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Make sure you eat some black eyed peas and
Yeah, some cabbage.
yeah, that, and don't wash no clothes on the first, don't walk under no ladders, all that. And
Right,
she's
right,
arguing with me, so that's why you guys' generation is like, listen, you know,
right.
I'm not, I'm old, I'm past that.
Yeah,
I don't believe in, I truly don't believe in it. But I go along and just, mom, yeah, okay, but no, I'm not. If I want to wash some clothes on the first, I will do it. I understand the
right.
thinking behind it and the thinking of like, our older generation and see even some of our ancestors had it, but times have changed. But if that's what you want to do it privately, do it for yourself. But you
Yeah,
know, uh, I'm past all that, man. It's not. I want to
yeah.
walk my own lane, my own path.
Hey, it's funny you mentioned like the food part.
Yeah.
Because I used to hear that too from my grandparents, like growing up. It's kind of like the superstition of, you make cabbage because it's,
Yeah.
the blessings of money, and then you make black eyed peas to watch the money.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what it's about.
come on, where did that come from? I mean,
So if I
you
cook
just
some
think
black eyed peas on the first, I'm gonna get a check on the
there
second,
it is.
or
There it
what?
is. Or some
Like,
or
come
some
on.
crypto. You go get some
Right,
crypto.
right, right.
Yeah,
What
man,
about
that's
prayer? Sometimes,
right.
instead of making some black eyed peas, praying.
Right.
Uh, hey, you know what? That's something
Right.
I started after our conversation last week. I thought about, no, I'm not waiting to the first to start praying more. And that was something I just changed. I don't mind talking about it. I just made the decision to reach out more.
Yeah.
And I didn't wait. I'm not waiting for the first. This needs to be done now.
Right. Right.
But some people, and if that's your right, that's your right. But yeah, I can't do the black eyed peas. I grew up with that. My grandma had the laundry room locked on
Mm.
January 1st.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like you're not washing no clothes on the first. I mean, that's their house. So if
Yeah.
that's what they
Yeah.
say, that's what they say.
Of course. Yeah.
But black eyed peas every January 1st. My mom will
Yeah.
call me tomorrow. Did you buy some black eyed peas?
Yeah, man. I've heard it all my life too. And I don't know how in the world chitlins get in there either, because that's some stanky mess.
Especially with the smell and how
Right.
that formulates to some kind of New Year's resolution.
Put,
Chitlins, like
put some
chicken tenders,
stank on
really,
it. Put some
really.
stank on your new year. That's what you're doing.
Straight got to put a potato on the pot just so your house don't smell like stink.
Right. That's what I'm
Man, I
saying. Like,
I got freaked out with that when I was a little kid, and
oh man,
I haven't had a chitlin since then. I was
man.
good at that first time I tried. I think I was 7 or 8 years old,
Hmm.
and ain't put another one in my mouth since. I'm good,
Hey, no disrespect to all y'all that like chitlins, but that's nasty. Smell it
man.
stank. That's some stanky stuff
Man,
right
and you
there.
better clean them right. Like,
You better clean
and if
them
you
right.
do eat them, somebody you did it yourself, or I don't know too
Yeah,
many restaurants that serve chitlins like that. But man,
yeah.
the cleaning process
Mm.
is surgical. You got to get it right. It's no like, oh, I just kind of half-assed it. No, brother,
Man, Hey, but can you really clean some chitlins? That's the inside. That's where all the stank go. Like how clean can you really get them when that's what they designed to be and do? And I mean,
Well,
to each
I
his
think,
own.
yeah, from what I understood, because I was talking to a coworker of mine about this. Funny you mentioned that, and a lot of our eating habits, especially as, let's be honest, African Americans, our eating habits and things we used to eat, the traditions, that does not help us these days. We have a history of hypertension, diabetes, and eating
Yeah,
things like chitlins does not help. The cleaning, and then you got to cook them for so long to make sure they're done, but also to kill the bacteria that you didn't clean out. That heat's supposed to kill it, but our ancestors had to have to do what they had to do to survive, and they used the pig to eat to keep themselves up to be able to do their work. I
yeah.
understand that, and I'm grateful for that. But yeah, I'm good on the chitlin.
Me too. That will be a resolution I'll be making or part of
Yeah.
my meal for sure.
Yeah.
Man.
I don't, like I said to people, I was talking to some people earlier, like, about resolutions. One thing that I know is important as far as men are concerned, and we've been doing the show, we're going almost about to hit a year. And it's not necessarily a resolution, or, it needs to be something that starts immediately, ASAP, about your peace, your internal
Mm,
peace, your outer peace,
yeah.
anything surrounding your peace as a man that needs to be addressed, starting from me, everybody else. And where's your peace at? And be real and be honest with yourself. And I like to self-reflect and take accountability for my own actions, and look in the mirror. What do I need to do better? But if you're not at peace, you don't have no internal peace, and there's no peace external, that needs to change.
Yeah, man, that's something I definitely been learning and trying to practice because I mean, the world is beating us up every day, one
Yeah.
way or
Yeah.
another. I mean, you turn on the news, that's discouraging, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Stuff that's happening all around us is doom and gloom, for the
Yeah.
most part. So it's like,
Yeah.
I know we talk about it a lot just between me and you, but trying to, protect our own peace is essential, and whatever that means for you,
Yeah.
as a person, like you gotta do it. Like, whether that's prayer, whether that's working out, whether that's going to shoot an arrow, I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta protect your peace because it's always being attacked. That's what it feels like. It seems like your stability, mental awareness and health and peace, which I see is all the same thing. It's just under attack,
Mhm.
all the time. So
Yeah.
that's an
If
important thing.
it's if it's not a priority, I mean, then maybe your peace is, you have a peaceful life, and there's internal and external peace. Somewhat think about, your journey, you know, going to work, coming home, going to the gym. Is there any sort of place that doesn't bring you happiness? Or maybe there's conflict with, a spouse or a girlfriend or a child or a coworker. Resolving that conflict. Maybe
Mhm.
that's a thing people, I know New Year's resolutions some people have, but man, that you don't need to wait till the first to resolve conflict with each other.
Yeah.
And yeah, it looks ugly bringing conflict and drama into a new year, and that's why you shouldn't go into a new year with it. Address it sooner than later. Don't wait until January 1st. But bringing baggage, stuff like that. I get why people have those traditions and stuff like that, because the look of it, just bringing the same drama until the new year. You said you was
Yeah.
going to change it on January 1st. You addressed it, and come January 1st, 2026, you still have the same issue.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's, I mean, that's the true definition of just baggage, just
Right.
dragging it along. You know what I mean? When we can handle it directly and as promptly as possible. I know it's not always convenient. Nobody
Yeah.
likes to just, deal with confrontation. It's not comfortable.
Yeah.
But the more we drag it along, it becomes more toxic. At least
Mm.
that's what I've learned. And so, like you were saying, like you could start today, December
Yeah.
31st, before even going into the new year. But, that's just something, whatever that is,
Yeah.
whether it's relationship, whether it's like, man, my commute to work sucks. How do I, get some audio, tapes or, audio, type of books that I can
Yeah.
listen to build myself, my awareness and just more positivity around me. it's just various things, and everybody has their own needs, to kind of bring that peace going into like a new season.
Yeah.
Once you kind of realize, man, this has been toxic for so long. Like I might not be able to change like either that person, or I might not be able to change, hey, it takes me an hour to get to work, but what can I change, like for my own peace, as I'm dealing with these certain things, in life, like what am I in control of that I can possibly, make some adjustments to.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Knowing what you can control. And you said it, you cannot change somebody else, somebody who
Mm.
doesn't want to change, or somebody who doesn't think they have a problem, no matter what that issue is. If they don't see it for themselves and see urgency for themselves to get some help or therapy or whatever that means, you can't change people. And hoping and
Right.
praying that they're going to change, that's what that is. That's who they are. They've showed you, they presented it to you. People think, well, they're going to change. Well, what clues did you have that that was going to happen? They don't think nothing is wrong. So why would you think things are going to change? Same
Mm.
stuff, same stuff. What's the saying about, being lunatic, thinking, doing something the same way and thinking you're going to have a different
Oh yeah.
outcome?
Yeah.
You
Insanity,
know,
right?
insanity, right?
Yeah.
Doing the
Yeah.
same thing and you think there's going to be a different outcome.
Yeah.
Doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And I think that's probably a big one that all of us can relate to,
Yeah,
is, man, how do I get my own peace if, my friendship is on the rocks. This
right,
relationship is on the rocks. I can't change him or her, whatever that may be. But if I carry that baggage on for too long, it makes me bitter. You know what I
right,
mean? I have like unresolved forgiveness issues, and then that drains me, you know what I mean? So those are things, is a constant work, it's hard to do, but it does work with like concentrated intentional efforts, you know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah. One of the things, I know we was talking about the other day is learning to let go of stuff. And, sometimes it's people, sometimes that's trauma from childhood or maybe trauma from a relationship. And when I mean let go, it's not like your mind is just going to put it out. There's
Mhm.
steps you got to take. There's therapy. I would like to see a lot of more people from our generation really address their hurts and pains, and
Mhm.
quit thinking things are just going to go away and get better without you putting the work in. And a lot of the times, as we get older, you see you can't really do it by yourself. There
Yeah.
has to be maybe somebody giving you some help, or it has to be a collective team effort to change certain things, especially if we're talking about relationships, household conflicts. How do you address that? Because everybody's got to be on the same page. If you wanted more peace or happiness within your home, it has to be
Mhm.
something that's done from a team perspective. If you want it by yourself, it's not good enough. You need
Yeah.
help.
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect point, because we're not, I mean, by nature, we're not designed to just solve everything on our own. We're
Nah,
not
nah.
designed to hold things in. We're really designed to be communal, chat and help each other simply
Right,
just by communicating. So when that's broken down, that's kind of that's a flaw that really impacts, a lot of people, not just maybe that individual, not just maybe that those two or a few people that have the issue going on. Everyone that's kind of around that is some way impacted.
right,
So when
right.
you think
Yeah.
think about when you think about families, of course, that's the main, I guess, thing that's going to be impacted when it's a family issue and
Hmm.
others are attached to the family and they see that or they experience it. But any relationship, work relationships, you could see like if there's friction or things are just not right, or one person's being cold and not communicating or not treating someone fairly, other
Hmm.
people in the department pick up on that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great point you bring up, because it impacts goals, like reaches out.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Because I work in a job where you're around those people a lot. And,
Hmm.
you can go into work. I'm around those people 12 hours a night. So those people almost become like family. They
Yeah.
know you, they know your kids, they know how you grew up. They know your significant other. They know where you live. They know a lot about you because you're going to communicate with them, have peaceful
Hmm.
talk, peaceful discussions to get to know them as well. And they can pick up on things that, hey, are you okay? You don't seem yourself.
Yeah.
And as you get, we get older in this journey, that ability to camouflage stuff, man, you
Mm.
start losing that
Yeah.
because things start hitting you and it's like, man, I can't shake it off. This is how it is. Yeah, I got some things I'm going through, but other people can start noticing. And that's how man, things are really hurting you and needs to be addressed. But you don't think you're showing it, but people you're around a lot, family, friends, coworkers, they can see it.
Yeah, yeah. I know, especially man, probably for us because I know for me, like I'm very humorous just in general. I'm
Mm,
kind of lighthearted. Nothing really bothers me unless there's a direct attack, basically,
right,
on my
right,
character, on my family. Outside of that, I really don't care. You know what I'm saying?
right.
But so yeah, you're right. Like man, if I'm down and the people that have kind of been around me the most, family or work, friends, that they're gonna ask like, "What's up with you, Zane? Like,
Yeah,
some ain't right." You know what I mean? You ain't your normal self, and that's
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you actually want people that know you like that because you may not always see it.
yeah,
When you're going through something, you just trying to hide it or you just trying to deal with it. And so sometimes it's good that someone from the outside is like, "Hey, you good? Like, you seem a little
yeah,
distant or whatever that may be." Because then it puts a little self reflection back, like, man, if they noticing, like, I know I've been dealing with this, but
yeah,
maybe I need to do a little something different to get a little extra help or go to the gym, whatever it may be, get my pray
yeah,
more, whatever, get my peace. Because obviously it's being noticed.
yeah, yeah. And I've been there where people pull me just, hey, are you okay? You don't seem the same, or I'm like you, or like to crack a joke, I'll laugh,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
when I'm not in the mood for that, you could tell. Like I just come in, get my coffee, and bounce. Don't really speak to people, and
Right.
but that's not really who I am. I'm very talkative, social person,
Yeah.
and sometimes I can tell too when other people like when their mood or vibe has changed. Just don't make no resolutions. Make changes in your life and not catering to those traditions. New Year's Day, man, start now and protecting your peace. I know, and that's a thing that's being talked about with a lot of men. I hear
Yeah.
and see things on social media. I hear it at the job, at the
Hmm.
gym, protecting your peace. It's almost like I feel like people got that from us because I was like, man, we start talking about it, and I hear a lot of people talking about it more. But I'm sure that's not true. But it's been a point
Yeah.
that we've been addressing is protecting your peace.
Yeah. And it's good to see it a lot more now.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's a lot more podcasts and shows and stuff like that where you see men coming together, that, and obviously there's celebrities and people that have bigger platforms, of course, that get those views. But at the end of the day, it's just good to see men are taking the time, to
yeah,
have these type of conversations, because literally a year ago, you
mm-mm,
wasn't seeing it. You know what I
no,
mean? So it
no,
seemed like something really changed this last year. Um, and so it's good to see,
yeah.
especially amongst our culture.
Yeah. And the things we've talked about with depression, anxiety that a lot of men face, it's good to see that a lot of people have an ear to it. And a lot more men, and maybe sometimes even their spouses, girlfriends, try to say, hey, you want to talk, or maybe let's go to therapy or go to therapy on your own because it needs to be addressed. Everybody's got a little stress in their life. I don't know too many
Sure.
people that don't have some kind of stress, either from work or whatever. But how
Hmm.
you deal with that stress. And then as you get older, day by day, that stress, puts a little bit more pressure on your back, as they call the monkeys on your back. It gets a little harder to walk with that stress
Hmm.
and go to day life with that stress on your back.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that said, I mean, if we can just encourage, anyone out there that's listening, just continue to look for ways, to protect your peace. You may not even know that you need it, but you've been
Yeah.
struggling.
Yeah.
So, but yes, find somebody just to communicate with, chat with, whether it's a friend or just someone professionally that may need to walk you through some different steps. Maybe you haven't tried before. Spiritually, look at those avenues. But at the end of the day, your peace is priceless. We have experienced, people that have literally lost their life because of not having peace. And that is something, again, we want to try to speak on as much as possible and help somebody just enjoy as much as they can. Life is short. Yeah, yeah. I think that's one of the biggest myths about relationships, about marriage, is you kind of go into it thinking that this person is going to make me happy, or I can change this person to make me happy. And you in for a rude awakening. Because again, you are two people trying to become one, two people that have two different backgrounds and baggage and stuff that has to be worked out individually. You know what I'm saying? So to that point of, you have to be happy within in order to really experience like consistent happiness. Let's put it that way. Because of course you can have great times with your significant other and family and just others and friends. Like those are moments, right, that you're gonna like enjoy. But at the end of the day, like no one else is responsible in a sense for your happiness. Of course, we would love to say like, hey, my significant other, my wife, should contribute, and she should, right? Just like I should contribute to her having better days and, more fun in her life and vice versa. That should be a part of it, but we can't hold each other, I guess, responsible for each other's internal like peace and health that way. That's just a responsibility that's just too much for a person to take on because we got our own stuff that we're trying to clear out, so everyone should be working on themselves so that way the relationships can be better because I'm more happy. And if the other person is working on themselves, then and they're more happy, well, then that makes just a better relationship in general. I mean, ultimately, we know it's up to that other person, their personal decision. But I think any healthy like person that sees like their significant other like making efforts and trying to work through things should want to be involved one way or another. Okay, if he or she is working on themselves, like, okay, either let me join him or her, you know what I'm saying, to see how I can, be a part of that process of growing, or let me just look at myself too. Like, they're working on themselves. Let me see, what I can work on, because we all got stuff we need to work on. So I think it's kind of, we hear this word a lot, prideful, to think you don't have nothing you can work on. No tune up, no maintenance, that you can touch on. So if you see your significant other putting in work and you just feel like you got nothing to work on, like that's a tough like situation to be in. Yeah, me too. Yeah, yeah. And for all that really don't know us, this is always therapeutic for us. You know what I mean? This reason why we started this whole show is, first for us, and then two, just to be transparent with others that can possibly take on some of the things and, just learn from some of our mistakes or joys that we share, in life that we experience. So yeah, get your peace, man. One thing that I encourage you going into the new year is fight for that. You know what I mean? Because ain't nobody gonna fight for it like you. That's right. And until next time, take care.